Hey there, this is Drew Badger, the world's #1 English fluency guide, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to another advanced listening practice lesson. As always, at the beginning of this series, or at the beginning of these videos, I like to say, if you are not used to the sound of my voice, or if you are new to the channel, please go back and watch some of our older videos so you can get used to the sound of my voice, and that way you can just focus on improving your vocabulary, learning some new words and phrases with me as we go in and just talk about whatever in these faster video series episodes. So I will be speaking at faster than native speed, and if you're not ready for that, just go back and watch some of the previous videos first and then come back to these. But if you are ready, let's begin. Well, I want to talk about something that was actually, it's actually quite interesting. It came up fairly recently, and I thought, I was talking with a friend of mine talking about how to make EnglishAnyone.com better, as I'm always doing. I think a lot about that, how we can help you learn more effectively, thinking about lots of different words and phrases and new ideas that will, really just help you, in lots of different ways, not only just the English that you use, but also in your general life. And that's why I talk about psychology and philosophy and other different things that are, just great for well-being and having a more interesting life. Anyway, one thing we were talking about is the fact that we don't really use curse words in what we do. Now, I will use like, fuck or shit or something occasionally, but I don't really talk about that very often. And the reason that came up in the conversation was because he was talking about a TV show he had been watching, and he was saying that, well, like a lot of the, it was a little bit, kind of the cursing was overdone. There was maybe kind of people cursing too much, and he was thinking, well, it's not such a good idea. And so we started to talk about what's like a good thing to share with your kids. Now, usually if you're watching a TV show or you're watching like a live broadcast, they have a 7-second delay so that someone can sit there with their finger on a button and hit like the beep, like little like beep sound or whatever. So if I say fuck, it's like, the little beep sound comes in. Now, for this channel, mostly adults are watching this. Little kids are probably not watching this channel. They'd rather be watching cartoons or some crazy stuff. But anyway, so we'll be talking about why in this video maybe we shouldn't be thinking about cursing the way we think about it now. So when just getting back to that conversation, we were talking about, is cursing a good idea? People should be maybe having like cursing in video games or cursing in TV shows or something like that. And in my opinion, I didn't think really cursing was that big of a deal. It doesn't really matter to me. I mean, I curse in my daily life, and we curse for effect. To do something for effect just means that we want to add emphasis, or we really want to say that something is, we really want to emphasize that thing, basically. So I could say, it's cold. But if I really want to say it's really cold, I say, man, it's fucking cold over here. It's fucking cold. Now, you'll hear this in movies and TV shows, and especially like movies, we have different ratings for these things because different audiences, or maybe like little kids maybe wouldn't want to hear fuck, or their parents wouldn't want them to hear fuck, so you wouldn't be watching the movie Frozen. It's like, let it go, fuck. You wouldn't see that in Frozen. But maybe like an adult version of Frozen. Maybe I should think about that, though. Maybe having like, let it go, fuck, just like put that in there. Some people like cursing. Again, I don't really care about it so much. But anyway, so the interesting thing was we were talking about this in the conversation, and I was saying that, well, it's probably not such a good idea if cursing is in there, but I think it's probably actually a much better discussion if we talk about what's even worse than cursing as far as using words and language in front of kids. And so we started talking about the things that we say because he's going to be a father very soon, and I am a new father. Excuse me. So we were talking about, what words would we be saying, and would we curse in front of our own kids and things like that? Because I have done that on occasion, and you kind of stop yourself. You change the way you speak, or you try to censor yourself. To censor something just means you're trying to stop it or to make sure you're not doing that thing. But I try to censor my speech a little bit around my new daughter. So she is starting to hear things. She's not at that age where she's copying things. And this is a really interesting thing about kids, too. They seem to learn curse words faster than anything else. So whenever you say, fuck, oops, then the child hears like, oh, like that's a good word. I should probably learn that one. But if you just say, it's fucking cold over here, the child probably wouldn't care very much about it anyway. Anyway. Excuse me, I'm kind of coming down with something, kind of like getting a little bit of cold over here. It's quite cold in Nagasaki, and I've been doing like a lot of videos, a lot of recordings for a lot of the things we'll be producing in the future, and so it's wearing on my throat, I guess. I need like a lozenge, like a throat candy or something. Anyway, I always get sidetracked. I'm getting sidetracked by being sidetracked in this video, but I hope it's not too confusing for you. But it's fun to, this is my kind of stream of consciousness. This is the way my mind works. I start talking about one thing and then I start thinking about this, but hopefully I come back to the original thing, and that's what I'll try to do right now, so I apologize. Anyway, so the cursing discussion, we were talking about what we would use in front of our kids, and I was saying, well, it's probably better to worry about or to think about not using the word can't in front of your kids as opposed to cursing. Like I would, if I had to choose one, I would rather curse in front of my child than use the word can't. And even if I say, like, you shouldn't do something, like my child is trying to jump out the window and fly, I would say, well, you can't fly. Like, I mean, that's an example where, it's just not physically possible in that way. You don't want to jump out a window and pretend to fly like Superman after watching a Superman movie or something. But we were talking about that, and that most people don't really think about that discussion. And it's really important to think about the vocabulary that you use with your kids, because that's how we learn. So the things that you don't learn in school, like, obviously people learn about math and science and other things like that, but a lot of things that aren't taught in school, and money is a big part of that. So you don't learn about financial literacy, so learning how to understand money and banking and business, that kind of things, those just aren't taught in school, and at least not most schools anyway, like typical school. So you learn reading and writing and how to spell words and how to like say yes or no, how to answer questions and write essays, but you learn very little about money and finance in school. And the reason is that people don't really want you to know a lot about money, because if you did, you would not become a competent like employee that just understands how to like take orders and do things like that. So it is kind of a separate discussion about the education system in general. And there are different schools and different education systems, but broadly, and I'm speaking more about America because I just know more about that, but American schools are designed to create American employees. So other people that they work for companies. So that's why people go into school and they learn to do well and follow orders and go get a job. And so that's what they do. Now, part of the reason I do what I do is because I maybe didn't do so well in school. And I was thinking like, well, fuck school. I mean, I wanted to do well, but I didn't really enjoy school. I enjoyed college. College was fun. But, I was also able to do some kind of business things there. And like, I used to throw parties for profit in college. That was a lot of fun because we didn't really have good parties at my schools. I would like organize different parties and try to do different stuff. So anyway, that's part of that thing. But getting back to, again, I keep getting sidetracked, but getting back to the original thing about cursing, when, because we have to think about what's taught in school, the ideas that especially children are learning from their parents, the way they think, the kind of jobs they have, what they think their like social class is, like are they upper class, are they wealthy, are they poor, are they middle class or something like that. As children get older, they start developing these identities about what it is they have. So are they thinking about having a particular idea about what kind of money they can have, and so that's why you see a lot of people following in the footsteps of their parents. So to follow in the footsteps of someone means like my parent is a lawyer, so I become a lawyer. And maybe you don't have such a strong interest in that. Maybe you do, but you'll try to do the same thing they're doing because your parent talks a lot about law at home. And so they talk about this thing, and so the child also learns about law, and they decide, well, maybe I should do law too. Or it's a doctor who has a child that becomes a doctor, that kind of thing. So since a lot of people teach the kind of thing, and even if you're not like teaching about medicine to your child, you talk about things at home and you behave in a certain way. And so the way that you behave about money is the same thing. So you teach your kids about money, and, a wealthy person would teach their child about money in a certain way, or a poor person would teach their child about money in a certain way. And a lot of this, you can kind of change the way people think. Maybe if you don't have a lot of money yourself, you can try to encourage them like to learn about it from people that do have money, or, whatever. I'm not even talking about money specifically, but we could be talking about being a doctor or a lawyer or anything like that. But anyway, the whole idea here, you have to forgive me for like sniffing like that. Anyway, so the main idea here is that the language we use, we're so focused on whether we use, a word like fuck or shit or, whatever the thing is in front of our kids, that we don't worry about the other language we use and the ways we talk to our kids. And we say like, you can't do that. So you don't have enough money to do that kind of thing. Now, we don't think about it so much, but let's say a parent that's middle class and maybe they don't have much money. They say like, well, we can't have a second house, or we can't, take that vacation, or we can't do this because of whatever. Now that teaches the child, wow, like my dad, he's like the most important person in my life, especially when a child is like, very young. And a child listens to that and they think like, well, wow, I guess we can't do that. And they understand that. They just believe it, and that's what they think is true. Now, a wealthy person is saying like, how can you do that? So maybe I'm not going to say you can't do something. I'm not just going to buy my daughter like any toy she wants, but I would say instead of you can't have that, or we don't have money, or whatever, I think like, how can you get that thing? And so when we were talking about this idea, it just occurred to us, maybe it's better to focus on not the cursing, but the kind of actual language, the everyday language we use that's probably not such a good idea to use in front of our kids. So if you are a parent, or you thinking about having parents, or I guess not parents, but kids in the future, maybe you can think about that as well. So you have to be careful with the actual language you use and how that's affecting your kids and what that's teaching them. Because if you say you can't all the time, then your kids will be thinking the same thing. Now, I wanted to be very careful about this because when I was younger, and people would say like, well, like my mom or my dad's is like, oh, we can't do that. We don't have enough money, or we can't do this, or we can't do that. And I would think, oh, I guess we can't. But as I got older, I was like, fuck that. Not to get angry, but it's just like, you have to, in order to change your behavior, you have to get kind of angry about something. You have to think about doing it in a different way, and you have to decide, fuck that. Fuck that. Now, it's okay to say fuck, but you don't want to say can't. And that's been kind of the message of this whole video. Anyway, this is just kind of a jumping off point. Maybe get in the comments below. What do you think it's good to curse in front of your kids, or you think it's not good to curse, or you think using can't or other things like that? Or maybe you can even describe particular situations from your own life where your parents, said something like that. And this might be applicable to you, or you could apply it to your own life if you have a situation where, maybe your parents are saying you can do this or you can't do that, or, something like that. So it could be both, good and bad. Usually the students or the young children, or, whatever the case is, the people that get the support and the good language from their parents are the ones that grow up to be successful much more easily. So if I always tell my child, yeah, you can do it. You can do anything you want. You can do this. And I say, how can you do it? So even if you don't know how something will happen, in the same way I talk to my learners, all the people. So I am an English fluency guide for many people around the world. And when I talk to them, I kind of start with this, the psychology. The most important part is thinking that you can do something. So you have to believe that you can do something, and then you don't worry about how exactly it will happen. You just think about the goal you want, and then you start working towards that thing. So first, believe you can, and then also think about the language that you're using when you're speaking about yourself and when you're speaking to your kids, if you've got any. Well, that's it for this lesson. I hope it's been enjoyable. Hope it's been fucking enjoyable. Yeah, man, fuck. Yeah, this has been a good lesson. A good lesson. Yeah, let's just reflect. Yeah, it's been a good lesson. I hope you've enjoyed it. When this video gets to 10,000 views or more, I'll release the next one in this series. And until then, do like it, do share it, tell your friends about it. Say, man, this is a fucking good lesson. You should fucking watch this video. All right? Bye-bye. To continue learning, click on the link in this video to download Speak English Naturally, our free guide to speaking and sounding like a native English speaker. The guide reveals the 3 most important kinds of conversational English you must learn if you want to sound native, and will help you experience instant improvement in your fluency and speaking confidence. To download your free guide on a mobile device, click on the link in the upper right of this video. To download your free guide from a computer, click on the link in the lower right of this video. I look forward to seeing you in the guide.